AdLib is the DSP-agnostic buying platform to scale your programmatic campaigns smarter, faster, and more profitably. AdLib helps independent agencies and marketers deliver premium programmatic performance without the complexity, cost, or overhead of traditional DSPs. Their platform provides the tools, data, and automation to run enterprise-quality campaigns, from CTV and audio to geofencing and YouTube, all under one roof with zero trafficking headaches. Plus, they're not just a platform, they're your growth partner. The AdLib team helps you win new business, expand budgets, and deliver measurable ROI that keeps clients coming back. It's time to unlock programmatic. Join leading marketers worldwide who are using AdLib to deliver more campaigns with better results. Check out getadlib.com. Welcome to Open Market, a podcast about building companies in the advertising industry. I'm Joe Zappa. I'm joined by Eric Franchi and the GM of Universal Ads by Comcast, James Borow. How's it going, James?
It's great. Great. Happy to be back. Huge fan of this. And you guys have been on a tear. So pumped to be a part of it today.
We decided to become fun because our producer told us we had to. And then I realized I was going to have to carry that burden entirely by myself. So I've just been getting really zany on the pods.
I like it. Self-promoting. I have my own podcast too. It's called ADSN. And we've got to this point now where we realize that there's no harm in making a bad episode because no one just listens to it if it's a bad episode. So it's just totally, you should be as out there as possible because it probably goes to the ether or just crushes it and therefore it was good.
No, it's what I always tell clients about B2B marketing. I'm like, these things have a natural defensive function, which is if you do it and it sucks, just no one sees it. So who cares? Yeah. And that's exactly what James says to the Comcast marketing team. And they're very chill about it. They're
super chill.
Yes, they're great. I love them.
Beautiful. So James, what is the state of performance TV? We spoke about this, I think, probably one to 2 years ago. So Obviously since then, Pinterest acquired TV Scientific. You have Vibe growing fast. They took a huge investment. How has the space evolved?
It's evolving exactly the way you think it would, right? So I feel like right now what's happening is primarily because of creative and AI around that, the barrier to entry has kind of gone away. Almost everyone, I think last year there was a whole thing of who's new to CTV. Now it's not new to CTV. It's who's actually investing in it. I think everyone's pretty much tried it out. Obviously self-promoting myself here on this, but for Universal Ads, you can record a video on your phone and upload it and run a TV ad in 2 minutes. Myself and my co-host of the podcast, we ran an Olympics ad via Universal Ads. So the accessibility is totally there. The performance is very much, I would say, real and defendable and almost every case definitive, but you have to use incrementality testing to actually get the value out of it, right? So I think in general, Pixel for TV is a great signal and it's a great, step forward. But at the end of the day, the people who are spending a lot of money are the ones that have gone all in on incrementality. And it kind of makes sense. You can't click on TV ads. So from a pure click-based thing, it's not the best methodology for it. But I think, kind of where we sit today, when it's measured properly, it is a monster, right? It performs incredibly well on its own and it makes all your other media work harder. So I am about as bullish as you possibly can be on the space. I still think there's a lot of there's still kind of a lot of games and inefficiencies in it. It kind of reminds me of 2013 social. There's a ton of ARB happening now. Most advertisers don't really know how much is really being spent on this stuff. So those problems have to go away. But it's on its way to getting, I think, to a really great place for both publishers and advertisers.
Where is the growth coming from in 2026? Specifically, right? Is it performance dollars or is it SMBs? And I asked this for, a specific reason.
It's always performance. So there's three segments that at least we see that are crushing it. One is app install. That one is great because you basically can get quick feedback on it, right? E-com is obviously a big part of the mix. E-com, you have to have more patience because you're basically relying on incrementality testing just because the conversion can be farther out. But that one is a huge growth driver. SMB is really great for it, but more performance oriented. So these are people who are trying to drive calls and have been really traditional search advertisers. And so TV makes search work way better. And so from a pure cost per call or cost per lead perspective, that's working incredibly well. It's not coming from necessarily the traditional SMB, I think they're already there. Like I always use like kind of the example of like for Comcast. Comcast historically, if you look at like the TV advertisers that have worked with Comcast, they had the head, right? All the Fortune 1000 are advertising, and they actually had the tail, right? There's like all these salespeople across. Yeah, so that's all there. It's really kind of the torso where the growth's coming from. And it's really in that torso, it's like what I would call like economically rational advertisers, right? So they are just mercenaries for results. And actually, it's a really good thing now because it can be measured in a way that you can prove it to them.
What issues pop up with those economically rational advertisers? Like if they're used to search and social, for example, what are some of the challenges as they get used to TV?
Well, the creative, although it's solved and getting better, is still just in the education process. Like a lot of them are not sitting on 15s and 30s, right? It's just like a different format. In fact, like through Universal Ads, you can buy 60s and 90s, which actually work really well, but like no one has them. So that is definitely a thing that comes up. I think from the pure measurement perspective, you just have to be willing to look at your mix holistically. So like if you, to some extent, you have to be willing to step back and question every channel, right? And really look at them all, like I think with a real honest perspective of what's truly working and why. And you have to like shut off media and do holdouts. And that stuff's kind of a pain. So I'd say like that education process has been, it's something that we work really hard on. Like the team spends a ton of time out there just trying to educate everyone on. But I think, the nice thing about TV is that like you can see a really quick feedback loop. It doesn't mean, again, it's not like a click-based medium, but you can see like right now we have a bunch of advertisers. If you turn it off, their cost per click for search goes through the roof, right? And again, same thing on social. You turn it off in certain markets and your Instagram ads start to actually suffer dramatically. So like, the truth's on our side. We just have to like educate people about how this all really works.
Right. So that's super interesting. So it really requires a cross-channel approach in terms of measurement and communicating the value, because they have to understand, the clicks that search and social have been harvesting forever. You're going to continue harvesting the clicks and the impact of this channel on those channels. So you need to be able to connect the dots to understand the value.
And the irony is, I've said this before, like on, I think like X, but like the walled gardens and social networks basically kind of like created this great setup for TV because they got everyone to believe their own metrics, but then everyone looked at that and they're like, well, there's like, if I added up all the sales that these 5 platforms are showing me, I actually have 5 more sales than I really do. And so now that's how you have this big move towards all the incrementality partners, the Measures, the House, the Triple Whales, the North Beams, all the MMP partners. I mean, if you're spending real money right now, you are not keeping score based on first party data, right? And that even goes for the search guys. Like, for example, we have this great partnership with a company called Search Kings, a huge business. And they basically have done an ads API integration with us, and they do ads integration with your Google search, and they become the source of truth on what the impact between these things are. So I think that's like, there's a whole industry now that has made omnichannel way more manageable to understand from the measurement perspective that I think a few years ago it wasn't there. And so I think that's been just like another really great thing where like timing's on our side. And now you even see it with Meta. It's sort of like, to some extent, the ship sailed. Like Meta pushes incrementality testing pretty much more than anyone now, right? And so they kind of, I think, are aware that the old game doesn't work. And so, you really kind of have to, you got to look at it in a different way.
Back to the mix of, next gen performance TV advertisers to SMBs. Last year, Magnite acquired Streamer.ai. They've done, I think, a really, really good job with the integration and, maybe less onboarding SMBs, although I'm not, kind of clear that they don't break out the reporting, just more adoption of the tools. There is probably a dozen startups trying to be the next streamer, trying to build, these agentic tools to onboard SMBs. Broadly speaking, because you're an investor, we do deals together. Broadly speaking, what do you think of that category? Like, pure play SMB for CTVs. Like, is there a there? Or is it, like you guys are just going to suck up all the dollars?
No, I think there's a there. I think you should build on top of our ads API, which is free. So that's one thing. I think you should build layers on top of that. I think, listen, I know the streamer guys and I really like them. I think for the business that they sold, which was really pure play creative, right? If you just call a spade for what, V1 of what that pre-Magnite product was. I think that one's tough to be for ads. Now, there are companies like, for example, former friends from Snap are building Higgsfield, right? Like Higgsfield is a creative, Gen AI creative solution, right? For you to build sort of They're doing a bunch of stuff in the ad space. They're doing a bunch of stuff for creators. They're actually now starting to help you create your own video games. They just launched a 90-minute movie. Like, I believe a lot in that product set. But I think for ads alone on the creative side, I do think there's probably a chance it becomes commoditized pretty quickly. Like, it is sort of table stakes. For example, like for us, we do have a partnership with a company called Creatify, former Snap people as well, but we subsidize it. We give it away for free, right? And like, we basically the ad platforms are highly incentivized to get you generating creative. I think that's one where as a standalone, it's tough. But I think stepping out of that, I think people building tools to just help you manage your marketing holistically for an SMB, I think that has a ton of value. Like, I still think there's a ton of awesome stuff to build. I just think like that little niche may not be as useful as it was before.
You mentioned, James, at the top of the pod that the barrier to entry, partially due to AI, has been lowered. What then differentiates the companies, whether it's a publisher or an ad tech company or some combination of the two, that are going to have a durable impact in the space from those who are just like, we're spinning up an agentic solution and it's really not going to have any impact here?
Yeah, I think there are, I'll say it from our perspective, like the reason why I'm so excited to be building what we're building, Universal Ads, is that we are as close to the supply as you can possibly be. It's all built on top of Freewheel. We own Freewheel. We charge no demand side fee. Like, we have a real economic advantage that benefits both publishers and advertisers that I think is durable. Well, it's not, I don't think, I know it's durable. And now we have to go ahead and just continue iterating, building all the pieces of the puzzle that kind of you have to do. So, there's opportunities out there, but I think it's like kind of any ad tech business. You're either incredibly close to the supply, or you've built such good ML in a fragmented publisher space that you're able to go ahead and build something unique. You could look at like AppLovin as sort of the classic example there, I think. But I think, TV is different. It's more consolidated than people think. It's not like mobile apps where there's like thousands and thousands of apps, right? TV at the end of the day is made up of 20, 30 publishers at scale, which is different than like what, open web was like, and, also what mobile's like. So I just think it's like a different landscape, and sometimes people like think it's the same.
So O&O, as you were just gesturing toward, is obviously paramount. Hard not to think in that context about the Fox Roku deal. Now, obviously, Fox already had O&O, but with Roku, it massively expands the O&O at their disposal. It also gives them access to the TV OS. So I understand you may not be able to comment at length about that particular deal, but maybe you could comment about what that sort of represents in the ecosystem, and then what you do if you don't have the O&O of a Fox, Roku, or Comcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things. So one, Fox and Roku are actually two really great partners of ours. They're part of what we call the Universal Audience Network. So when you buy an ad on Universal Ads, it goes across about 20 different publishers. Two of the main ones in that are Fox and Roku. So those teams are brilliant. There's a ton of really good friends there. So like in general, I'm just very bullish on those two companies and like them as partners. I think when it comes down to the O&O side, it obviously makes a huge advantage to your business model. Like, you need to be able to monetize the supply side, either by owning it or by having tools that help the supply side actually make more money, right? So like, to me, like, I wake up and I'm just like, okay, how do I help advertisers make money from TV? And how do I make sure that TV publishers are getting their fair share of their ads budgets? Because I think right now most advertisers are under indexed on television historically, just based on how performant TV is. So you could look at some of the DSPs who purely go ahead and tax the advertiser. I think long-term, that is not an aligned approach. Now, I definitely, let's like flip to AppLovin, for example. AppLovin in theory taxes the advertiser, but they're delivering an outcome. And so like, that's where I think there's a different trade that's happening. But I think sort of the historical sort of model that we've seen just does not feel to me like it's sustainable. And again, if you were like come down the level to like more of these, like the torso, these performance, SMBs, like when I talk to them about why they should be buying their TV through Universal Ads, first of all, like they don't even think about a DSP. Like none of them are going to use a DSP. And then they're like, okay, well, like the reason why I haven't done this is I don't want to use a bunch of different ad managers. And I basically say, listen, like those ad managers have a lot of value in certain cases, but if you just want to go ahead and reach as many people watching TV as possible, like it's a Meta campaign or, like a PMax campaign, then like universal ads is your answer. And it's just an ad manager, go use it. I think that's where the world's going. And then from all that, like you asked that question about like the agentic stuff. Like I think the agentive stuff is awesome, but only to help you optimize your workflow on top of these valuable platforms, right? Like doing it for the sake of it is like a pretty suspect strategy.
What I'm hearing is you either need O&O, right? So you need something unique to sell that no one else has, or you need to be so good at driving outcomes through whatever technology or methodology, a la AppLovin, advertisers are going to come to you anyway. Is that a fair
mix? And there's a mix of the both, right? Like you can look at, any of the platforms that have effectively, offerings where you could run across their O&O and 3P in a coordinated way and drive outcomes. Like I think there's room for all of them, but I think, the pure play DSP that's just taxing you for software, especially when the cost of building software is coming down so dramatically, that one seems tough. As Eric, as a mutual friend of ours said, Mike Christo, software is solved. I saw you like that. It was a pretty good one. But I just think like you can't be charging for software anymore.
Yeah, and from the O&O perspective, presuming the deal closes, the stat I thought was notable. Roku plus Fox ends up being north of 5% of the FAST market, which makes them like a real player, right? So you've got the ability to go to market and do some interesting things. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
And one thing on them, totally outside this deal, but I think where people sometimes don't give Fox enough credit. And I have a really good friend there, who's the chief strategy officer on the ad side, Stefano Kim, who's just like I think like a brilliant guy. But I've sort of talked to him about this a little bit, and just like strategy wise, they didn't try to build a super app. It's kind of interesting on their apps. They had like their app strategy looks more like sort of the Meta family of apps, where like each, you look at the Meta, it's like, there's Facebook for a certain demographic, there's Instagram. Like it was clever and is clever how they're doing that. And I think that to me strikes me like, especially as the cost of developing software and apps come down, I think you'll see more of this family of app style approach come into play. Which 2 years ago would be like, how am I going to maintain all these? And now you're like, whatever, like it's fine.
Yeah, it gives you optionality. I wonder how many apps they have. Just thinking about it. Sports, business, news,
they have
Nation, Tubi. Well, yeah. I mean, probably
there's a lot
pushing 10.
But everyone else is trying to consolidate, not everyone else, but most of these, you see a lot of this. And I think now, and this is all, Meta and my former employer, Snapchat, have talked about this, where like, they're going to start just pumping out apps. Right? Like they're going to start just so I think that will probably happen on the TV side.
What have you and the team at Universal Ads been like focused on and building since we last spoke? Like where is a lot of the investment going? Where are the the products going? I'm super interested in that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all performance and measurement. Like our job is to make sure that this is a good investment for an advertiser to put their money into, like hard stop. So probably since we've talked, we're now up to over 20 publishers that you can advertise across. We launched a product called Performance Plus, which is like our sort of PMax answer to TV. So you can run across the entire platform, audience base, ML to drive outcomes. We've hired just like a team of absolute hitters when it comes to ad tech. Like it's one of the best groups of just pure performance talent that like I've ever kind of been around. And then, we've launched our partnerships with all the MMPs. So Justin, AppsFlyer, Branch, Chava, Singular. We actually turned on the ability for you to advertise across both CTV and programmatic linear across campaigns. So like, it's all about just helping you get access to the inventory and driving results as easily as humanly possible. And then we've done other stuff where we're making it easy for you. If you don't, if you're someone who wants to not just run, across the whole country, but you want to be inside certain moments, we've also made it where you can't advertise like in the Olympics. You can't advertise across MLB content. Right now, you could go ahead and buy a World Cup ad via Universal Ads. So, there's moments where like that type of content is important to the advertiser. But the thing that like we care most about is like, how can we be just like the most performance solution for buying TV ads? And like, you probably heard, I've talked about AppLovin a lot in this. And like, I respect those guys a lot, but it's like, I think we have a chance to be like AppLovin of TV. Like, I truly think that's like what we can do. And so we're just trying to get there as fast as possible. So yeah, that's what we kind of wake up all fighting about. How do you get there as quick as you possibly can?
James, final question. You said, you've got this cadence of recruiting announcements, which I think is fascinating. Like you've got, truly like some of the best talent in the space that could, work anywhere, including building or joining, hot startups. They're joining Comcast, which is fascinating, right? Because Comcast is like, I don't know, how many years old?
I think it's like 65 years old.
Yeah, 65-year-old company. Talk about the recruiting and like how are you able to do this? It's fascinating.
I think the key thing has been just like the collective assets of Comcast are incredibly not well known. So like no one thinks about like Comcast in like the collective, right? For some, And so what's been the most impactful is when I talk to you about it, I have like a deck where I'm just like, you guys don't understand what this thing is. Like it is like, because it's so many different things, different people. If you're from Chicago, it's your cable company. If you're from LA, they own Universal Studios. If you're an adtech, they own Freewheel, right? Like, it's all these different things. What's been just really helpful is like, if you just look at the collective assets in terms of the footprint, in terms of our ability to take products to market, we have a gigantic sales organization. We have some of the best ad tech to build on top of in Freewheel. We have incredible O&O across the Xfinity footprint and across all the NBC and Sky content. And it's all coordinated because it's all been built on top of Freewheel, which is like kind of the part that like I think if you were to buy those pieces individually and try to reassemble them, it would take you, we'll see. Companies are going to try to do this probably. It's years, see how many years. Yeah, it was like, and billions and billions of dollars. So I think you sort of can lay that out. It becomes very clear that like, I really do think Comcast has like a right to win when it comes to TV advertising products. Like I really do think we have all the ingredients to build just the absolute best platform for advertisers to get value out of TV. And so I think that's the aha moment for people. And then there's been enough of us been here. I've almost been here for 2 years. It's just been such a great experience that like, people are just calling their friends to come on and do this. And the talent pool, there's obviously kind of our group that's working on Universal Ads, but like across the board, the talent is amazing. The team on Comcast Advertising is incredible. The NBCU team is like Mark Marshall and Allison Levin and that crew. They are incredibly just impressive people. Same goes for, everyone over at Sky. So it's just, I think, my job in a lot of ways, recruiting wise, just people to help them understand like, this is just like an unbelievable ad tech DNA company that has all the resources and assets to win this thing. And once you sort of dig through it, you're like, okay, I totally get it. And then they're like, and you're going to let you do your thing. And we do.
And each hire makes it that much easier for the next successive hire because they're just seeing that the density start to increase. Super cool. Congrats.
Eric, if you had been the head of corp dev at the trade desk 2 or 3 years ago, like looking back, their stock at an all-time high was like 7 or 8 multiples of what it is now. And now, you have Fox acquiring Roku for $22 billion. There was a time where TTD was several multiples of that. Do you think they're kicking themselves? And would you look at, of course, hindsight's 2020, but if having that hindsight now, should they have acquired Roku at that time?
So, TTD and Jeff, very philosophically motivated to build for the buy side. So once you're in a position of having O&O, once you're in a position of like owning inventory with some of the, kind of unique real estate, it changes the equation and it makes them hard to compete in the way that they compete in terms of just like the messaging against Amazon, against Google. So I wasn't at all privy to those conversations or if they ever happened, but it always, in my mind, seemed to go back to that, which is like, it immediately turns them into a different business. The question is that business actually the business that they should be in? Which I think is a, good debate to have. But I don't think they, at least, to date with the way that they talk about the business, ever would have done it from that perspective.
Right. That's why it's super interesting, right? Because it's sort of at odds with their messaging and what appears to be their core philosophy. But you asked the right question, which is, would it have been worth it to actually evolve and ditch that philosophy or that stance and instead say, instead of going from, we're independent and we're objective, yada, yada, just say, yeah, we got some good shit and we're going to sell you that. What do you, James, I suspect, you might not want to comment on the specifics, but the general ideas and like whether it's more valuable to have that super valuable O&O or to be independent, sort of be the portal to the open internet ecosystem. What's your thought on that?
I grew up like kind of in the walled garden sort of like world. And so like my philosophy is like, I want advertisers to be able to make money out of ads. I just want them, if they're going to buy ads, they need to make more than they spend. It's like pretty simple. You're just buying a stock. It's like, you got a lot of ways, finance, and I've been a founder. It's like a really precious thing to get someone to spend money on this stuff, right? Especially because if you spend it, you don't know if it's going to work yet. So like I have a lot of empathy for the advertiser. And I think that doesn't mean though that you have to be like dogmatic on not helping the publisher, right? And so like in many ways, like I would say what like Meta showed was like the way to get the closest there was you like try to cut out as many middlemen as possible. Let's just get as much media working as possible. And then you can start to get to a really kind of rational endpoint of like, okay, advertiser wants outcome, publisher wants more revenue. Like, how do we go ahead and get there? I think that is my sort of cop-out answer on, I never understood a percentage of spend business that was just taxing the advertiser. Because like that to me does not feel like you're getting anyone really closer to like where you needed to be. Now, Jeff, like in the case of Trade Desk, I just like, he is brilliant and he's been, right way more times than he's been wrong. And so I don't think like that story is over, but like, I do think at the end of the day, like if you can help publishers make money by you spending more money, because by spending more money, you're helping your business, like that's where I want to be, right? Like I want you spending because it's helping your business. And as a result, a publisher makes more money in the process. I don't want to be sitting in the middle, clipping some fee because I'm clipping some fee.
Pew, dagger with a smile.
I think it's a little unfair or extreme to just like paint that brush that DSPs that build all of this incredible technology that's very difficult to build, or just kind of clipping a fee.
I do not think all DSPs do it, and there are many that are not that have that model. There are different DSPs, different models, but generally speaking, that's like I've been pretty consistent on this one.
Yeah, but I think James is highlighting something that's really interesting. And that's kind of what I did want, is beyond the specifics of any company, the sort of philosophy that governs these decisions, right? And what James is saying is ultimately he would be guided by and is guided by just what drives the best outcome for the advertiser, right? And the implication is if getting closer to the inventory allows you to do that, then great, get closer to the inventory, So I do think that's an interesting like lens through which to see the ad tech and media ecosystem.
I think one of my predictions on architecture this year is like, TTD is gonna turn it around this year, and it's halfway through the year, and I've been wrong to date. We're recording this on June 16th. There was some news that Publicis and TTD kind of settled their beef. Publicis is now recommending TTD again. There just needs to be like a moment. It was just, this is more kind of speaking about that company, kind of specifically. There just needs to be a moment where the momentum shifts and things start to come together again. And I do think that they have a chance this year to turn it all around.
Yes, and I agree. And there's some amazing people that are there working on that. And to take them out of the fold for a second, I think the thing, part of like what I'm trying to build Universal Ads was like, I just go back to all the people that would never use a DSP in the first place with that business model. So like, yeah, I think that
it's a different customer set.
It's a different customer set, yeah. And those are the people that like, again, if I can play a part in getting like, those millions of businesses to like be having TV be like a real rational part of their mix, like I feel like this has been an incredibly good use of time. So like that's what I'm trying to do. But at the end, it's like different. There are very, very few advertisers that we have talked to directly for Universal Ads that you guys probably even heard of by design.
I bet.
Right. And it's kind of like, it's, so that's sort of like where I want to go. And there's my thesis is there's like a never ending line of new products that are going to be created because AI has made things so easy to be built. And so when those things come off the, assembly line, I want them to be the easiest way to go ahead and buy TV ads and different problem set.
Yeah. Good segue, actually. You're in the middle of, just a bunch of interesting companies and founders. I know people come to you a lot just because you've been a great investor and person to work with. What's interesting to you these days in ad tech? Outside of obviously the stuff you spend the day on with Universal Ads.
The agentic stuff I do think is really interesting, but like I think the stuff tied to creation of software, I think is like fascinating. So like if you are in Codex or in Claude and you're building products, like I think having the moment of creation be tied to the moment of distribution, I think that is like fascinating. And like the feedback loop that can come from that, where like software can become evolving and sort of autonomous, like would have seemed insane a year ago. And now like I've seen it and it's like, whoa, this is crazy. So I think that's fascinating. I still think the financing side is really interesting. I think there's like a lot of financial levers that matter a lot in ads that are not being properly utilized, right? Like, especially on the sort of demand side, like additional 30 days of flow is so valuable. And like, I think there's like a whole new world of underwriting that probably can come out for ads that I think people that like, I think about that too much probably. And then I'm really bullish on ChatGPT ads. Like I think OpenAI is going to crush it on this. I think, and there's a startup called Thrad. I don't know if you know those guys. The founder posted this thing the other day. I was like, this is so smart. And he basically said that like ChatGPT kind of shows for the first time that like advertisers can have like a one-to-one conversation at scale. So like, it's kind of cool. It's like the equivalent of all of us walking past a billboard and you can talk to it and be like, oh, I love those shoes. What size are those? Like that's, and the fact that you can automate that at scale is wild. I actually think ChatGPT's done a bad job articulating why their ads are so great, right? Like that's kind of the magic, right? Is that like a brand can have a conversation with like think about like a CPM, every 1,000 impressions can be 1,000 different conversations potentially. That's like very useful. So yeah, I think that stuff's awesome. I think gaming is really interesting. I think gaming and ads is interesting. I think ChatGPT is going to launch a gaming platform. I can't like wait for that. Like they need more dwell time. They need people to sit there and hang. And so like, I think that will be really cool. So yeah, I think there's like so much, there's going to be some just absolute monsters that get built over the next few years. And they're going to be tiny little teams. It's going to be like, 4 people and Aperiam's money.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, on the ChatGPT front, I agree completely. We talked about this on Marketecture last week. When that S1 comes out, the ARPU that they're factoring in, average revenue per user, currently is laughably low relative to what I think it might be once they really get some advertisers flowing through this and they start utilizing the data. Like Meta's fully loaded ARPU is something like $57. And I think if you run the numbers on chat, depending on how many users you think are like monetizable, it's like in the low single digits. So it's like that gap will not exist over the course of the next year or two. So I'm super bullish on that one as well. I think it's going to create a new category.
And one thing
conversation
on the ARPU thing, I feel like the thing that sometimes like, and we saw this sort of at Snap and like, I think I'm like very proud about the work we did at Snap. We got it to like $6 billion. ARPU was growing, but the reality is you can only extract as much revenue of like the GDP of the community, right? So like by nature of being a younger platform, right, you have less buying power. And that's why the ARPU basically hits ceilings. If you take that and you look at the ARPU of like AppLovin's footprint, for example, older users playing games, you are able to go ahead, you have more buying power collectively there, right? And so I think what like Chat has Chat has 2 things that are incredibly valuable. One is, in general, it's like kind of a less sort of verticalized, I guess, like niche audience, right? Like I think like it has a lot of buying power just because it's more representative of like the country. And then 2 is to get an advertiser on the platform is that like businesses didn't have a natural reason to be on Snapchat as much as we tried. There just wasn't a reason. And so you had to acquire them. So you had a CAC associated with the advertiser, whereas the CAC for ChatGPT to get advertisers on the platform is going to be way lower because there's a lot of natural reasons for a business to be on there and a lot of business owners themselves are already on there. So you combine like the CAC economics with the ARPU and then the fact that they have foundation models that we don't have access to. And they get, like people are like, I said this on my podcast where it was like, I'm so unimpressed they launched an ad manager. Like they have access to models the whole world doesn't have access to, and they have wholesale compute. They can build anything. Like,
yeah.
They provide, so Yeah, I think it's going to be a monster.
Absolutely. Joe, what you got?
I'm just thinking about how I'm too old for Snapchat and too young for AppLovin.
So ChatGPT. There you go.
Right? I'm in the 30s where it's like I'm on dating apps talking to people who are younger than me, and they're like, "Do you have Snapchat?" And I'm like, "No, bro, I'm 31. I'm not on Snapchat."
But you're on
I'm definitely on ChatGPT. Well, I'm also just like a huge nerd, right? So there's a huge overlap there for that demo. And then the games, it's like I'm not playing Candy Crush. That's my mom's on Candy Crush. I know Eric's hitting Candy Crush hard. Honestly.
I'm so bad at games and have no time for games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably reach a demo. All right, James, you're a fun guy. You know, I've enjoyed getting to know you and become friends over the years. We've been doing something different to end the pod. We're doing like a lightning round where we just ask some random questions, this or that.
I'm glad you're explaining the concept of a lightning round to a podcast host.
Well, I'm 41, so I'm right. I'm proud of the side.
He's 41. He's peak podcast demo, Eric. He knows what a lightning round is.
Yes, I got this. But all right, I like it. What do you got?
We'll put Comcast aside. Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
Why?
It's kind of a hedge answer. I was actually thinking about, YouTube Kids kind of scares me. I have a 6-year-old or 7-year-old, and she just turned 7 the other day, and a 4-year-old. And I really like the Mark Rover show. Have you seen this show? Like Crunch Labs. It's like the modern day Mythbusters. It's awesome. And it's like so good for her. Like she just loves it. He has this little box where she can make all these things. So like, I think the fact that a guy like that came out of nowhere, made his own shows. He worked at NASA and Apple, and that's there is amazing. But he just got signed by Netflix, and now you watch it on Netflix.
All right. As a boss for, let's say, at some point you leave Comcast. Likely not. Zuck or Spiegel?
Zuck.
Why?
Zuck I like Evan a lot. I think he's a really smart guy. He's nailed a bunch of stuff. I think there is I respect how much Zuck is willing to be wrong and move forward from that. Right. And so like you use the VR headset stuff. Like the fact is like Meta is called Meta because of the metaverse, but like now we don't even think about it. Like the guy's just ability to like pivot and go is incredibly impressive. And I think they're going to crush the Meta AI stuff too. Like I think they'll end up doing an incredible job on that. So not to say Evan isn't like that, but like I think Evan is more sort of Jobsian and like he's got this thing and he's going to make it happen. And they just launched specs today actually. And they look really cool. But yeah, Zuck.
I realize this is not a lightning round, but these are incredibly insightful answers. So thank you.
I was going to say very nice answer. Nice answer to my answer. Yeah.
Would you rather a campaign go viral for the wrong reason or never be seen at all?
Viral for the wrong reason. Yeah, and there's an example in this. Chewy just had this happen.
Oh, that's right. Walk us through. Yeah, because this is an AI story. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, there was Chewy, the dog food retailer they're running dynamic product ads. Quick aside, Marpipe. Incredible, by the way. It's Pantello. Dan, if you've gotten 45 minutes in this thing, what's up? But they were running dynamic product ads. There was a view of an image with maggots on it that Meta's AI picked up, and people started clicking it because it was like a weird thing of maggots on it. And so that was the image in the catalog that went basically like that Advantage Plus gave all the impressions to. And
obviously, it's maggots in an ad on Facebook on the Blue app. I mean, of course.
So that went viral, and I think, but it's a good example of where Chewy definitely got value out of it, and like it is. And I don't think I'm sure it was really stressful in the moment, but yeah, I think at this point, distribution is so hard. If you can get it, you probably take it.
Well said. All right, last one. Be careful with this. LA or New York?
What jurisdiction are we in within these? There's nuance to.
I don't know. I don't know LA. You know that.
LA. I'm very anti-LA City. Very pro the South Bay region. I'm from Chicago originally though, so I would take probably Chicago over both. But yeah, LA.
Well, that's not on the board, James. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, yes. Outskirts
awesome.
of LA. That's it.
Sorry, Jeremy. Sorry, Aaron.
Awesome. You're a great guest, man. We really appreciate you. Joe, you got anything before we break?
Nope, all good. James, thank you. Thank you for your wisdom.
Yeah,
Go make that TV perform.
I'm working on it.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
We'll have you back in 27. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye.